At the birthday dinner party. While introducing me, she smiled and said, "Don't be under any misunderstanding." "Yeah, just temporary." The people listening laughed. I stood up, went to the counter, paid my bill, and left. When she realized what had happened, she came to my office with her uncle. "I'm 29, work as a commercial architect, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I was building something real with someone." Her name was Amber. We'd been together for 8 months, long enough that I'd started imagining a future. Short enough that I apparently hadn't seen who she really was. We met at a mutual friend's housewarming party in March. She was charming, quick-witted, had this way of making you feel like the only person in the room when she wanted to. Within a month, we were spending most weekends together. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, traveled often for conferences, and had a close-knit family she talked about constantly. I liked that about her. The family thing. Mine was scattered across 3 states, and I'd always wanted that kind of closeness, that sense of belonging somewhere. The problem started small, so small I convinced myself I was overreacting. She'd make little jokes at my expense in front of her friends. "He's not exactly handy," she'd say with a laugh when I mentioned hiring someone to fix my kitchen cabinet. Or, "Don't ask him about sports." Trust me, I laughed them off initially. Everyone teases their partner, right? But there was something in her eyes when she said these things. A glint of satisfaction, like she enjoyed watching me shrink a little in front of people. By July, the comments had escalated. She'd forget to introduce me at gatherings, leaving me standing awkwardly at the edge of conversations. She'd check her phone constantly when we were alone, but be completely present when her friends were around. When I brought it up once, she looked at me like I was being ridiculous. "You're so insecure," she said, shaking her head. "It's not attractive." I dropped it, started working later, going to the gym more. Anything to avoid the feeling that I was somehow failing a test I didn't know I was taking. Her birthday fell on a Saturday in late November. She'd been planning this dinner for weeks, sending daily updates about the guest list, the menu, what she was going to wear. She invited her entire friend group and a few family members to an upscale Italian place downtown, the kind with a 3-week wait list and entree that cost $40. She asked me to come early to help greet people to make a good impression. I showed up at 6:30 in a navy suit I'd had dry cleaned for the occasion, holding a carefully wrapped gift I'd spent 2 hours picking out, a vintage compass necklace she'd admired in an antique shop months before. I'd gone back 3 times to make sure it was the right one. "You look nice," she said when I arrived, barely glancing at me. Her eyes were already scanning the room, tracking who had arrived, who was still missing. The restaurant was one of those trendy spots with exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling in geometric patterns. About 20 people were scattered around a long table that dominated the private dining area. I knew maybe 4 of them. Amber flitted between groups, laughing loudly, touching arms, throwing her head back in that way she did when she wanted everyone to notice her. She was completely in her element. I stood near the bar nursing a gin and tonic, making small talk with her cousin about real estate prices and interest rates. Around 7:30, after everyone had arrived and the appetizers were making their rounds, Amber decided it was time for introductions. She clinky-decked her glass with a fork and the table quieted immediately. Everyone turned toward her, smiling, expectant. I assumed she was going to thank people for coming. Maybe say something sweet about turning 30 and feeling grateful. Instead, she gestured toward me with her wine glass. "Everyone, this is Jordan," she said brightly, her voice carrying across the room. "My boyfriend." People smiled. A few waved. Someone I didn't know raised their glass. I nodded back, feeling awkward but not alarmed yet. Then she added with that same bright performer smile, "Don't be under any misunderstanding. Just temporary." The table erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles, but full-throated genuine amusement. Her best friend slapped the table so hard the silverware rattled. Her brother nearly spit out his drink. Someone in the back yelled, "Amber!" in mock scandal which only made everyone laugh harder. I stood there frozen, the sound washing over me like cold water. My face felt hot, then cold, then numb. The laughter seemed to stretch on forever. People wiping tears from their eyes, catching their breath, only to start again. She wasn't looking at me anymore. She was soaking in the attention, grinning like she just delivered the punchline of the year, accepting playful chefs from her friends like she was accepting applause. I set my drink down on the bar carefully. My hands were steady, surprisingly steady. I didn't think, didn't plan, just moved. I walked over to the counter near the entrance where they kept the checks and the host station. The hostess looked confused as I approached. "I need to pay for my portion," I said quietly. "Sir, it's a group tab. Just my drinks and appetizer, please." She hesitated, glancing past me toward the dining area where the laughter was finally dying down. "Are you sure?" "Yes." She pulled up the bill, her fingers moving quickly across the tablet. I handed her my card, signed the receipt without looking at the total, and walked toward the door. Behind me, I could hear the conversation resuming. Someone calling for more wine. I pushed through the heavy front door and stepped out into the November air. Outside, the cold hit my face sharp and clean. I stood on the sidewalk for a moment, letting the adrenaline settle, watching my breath fog in the streetlight. A couple walked past hand in hand, laughing about something. I felt completely outside of myself, like I was watching this happen to someone else. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again and again. I walked 3 blocks to where I'd parked, got in my car, and just sat there for a moment. The phone kept buzzing. Through the windshield, I could see the restaurant in the distance, warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. I started the engine and drove home. By the time I unlocked my apartment door, I had 17 missed calls and twice as many texts. Most were from Amber, a few from her friends, one from her cousin asking if I was okay. I deleted them without reading and poured myself a whiskey, a nice one, the bottle I'd been saving for something special. Then I sat on my couch in the dark and tried to figure out what the hell had just happened. The texts kept coming. I watched them light up my phone screen, one after another, like watching a slot machine. You know you're not going to win. Jordan, where did you go? Are you seriously leaving right now? Call me around midnight. They shifted in tone. Jordan, come on. It was a joke. You're being ridiculous. Everyone thinks you overreacted. You embarrassed me in front of my whole family. I stared at that last one for a long time. I embarrassed her. I turned my phone off and went to bed. Sunday, I ignored the world. I went for a long run through the park, the kind where your lungs burn and your thoughts finally quiet down. I cleaned my apartment, deep cleaned it, scrubbing baseboards, and organizing closets I'd been ignoring for months. I ordered Thai food, watched a documentary about brutalist architecture, and tried not to think about the fact that my phone was still off. Around 8 o'clock in the evening, I turned it back on. The messages had stopped. There was one voicemail from Amber, her voice tight and angry. I don't know what your problem is, but you made me look like an idiot on my birthday. Everyone kept asking where you went. I had to make excuses for you. Call me back so we can talk about this like adults. I deleted it and blocked her number. Monday morning felt surreal. I got up, made coffee, put on a suit, and went to work like nothing had happened. My office is downtown in an older building with high ceilings and terrible heating. I like it there. It's one of those places where you can lose yourself in work and nobody bothers you unless it's important. I had a project deadline coming up, a mixed-use development proposal that needed revisions by Wednesday. I buried myself in it, redlining plans, adjusting load calculations, tweaking the facade design. Around 11 o'clock, my desk phone rang. Internal line. Our receptionist, Patricia. Jordan, there's someone here to see you. I don't have any appointments this morning. She says it's personal. Amber and there's a man with her. I felt my jaw tighten. I closed my eyes, took a breath. Tell them I'm in a meeting. She's insisting. She says it's urgent. Patricia, I'm sorry, Jordan. She's making a scene. You might want to come out here. I saved my work, straightened my desk, and walked out to the lobby. Amber was standing near the elevators, arms crossed, looking like she'd barely slept. Her hair was in a messy bun. No makeup, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater. Next to her was a man in his 50s. Thick build, graying hair, expensive watch. Her uncle, I'd met him once at a family barbecue over the summer. He owned a construction company and had spent most of the afternoon talking about lumber prices. Jordan, Amber started, her voice strained, almost pleading. We need to talk. No, we don't. I kept my voice level, professional. You made your position clear on Saturday. I'm respecting that. Her uncle stepped forward, hands up in a placating gesture. Look, son, maybe we can all sit down somewhere and I'm not your son. I interrupted, still calm. And no, we can't. Amber's face flushed. You're being childish. It was a joke. Everyone laughed. You're the only one who didn't get it. I got it. That's why I left. Oh my God, you're so sensitive. I finished. Yeah, I've heard. But here's the thing, Amber. Jokes are supposed to be funny for everyone involved. That wasn't funny for me. That was you telling a room full of people that I don't matter to you. And you know what? Message received. Her uncle frowned, looking between us like he was watching a tennis match. Amber, what exactly did you say? She hesitated, suddenly looking less certain. I introduced him and said he was temporary. It was sarcasm. I was making fun of the idea that relationships have to be so serious all the time. It didn't sound like sarcasm, I said. It sounded like the truth. Because you're paranoid. You've always been paranoid about us, about what I think, about what my friends think. Maybe because you spent 8 months giving me reasons to be. The receptionist was trying very hard to look busy, typing nothing on her keyboard. A colleague walking past slowed down, pretending to check his phone while clearly listening. Amber's uncle cleared his throat. Jordan, I think my niece made a mistake. But walking out on her birthday like that was the right call. I finished. The only call, actually. Look, I'm at work. You two need to leave. Amber's eyes were shining now, angry tears threatening to spill over. Her voice went up an octave. You're really going to throw away 8 months over this? 8 months? You threw it away on Saturday. I just had the dignity to walk out instead of sitting there while you collected laughs at my expense. It wasn't at your expense. Then who was it at the expense of Amber? Because from where I was standing, I was the punchline. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. Everyone was right about you. You're boring. You're small. You have no sense of humor. I was settling. The words landed like she wanted them to. Sharp, designed to hurt. But instead of pain, I just felt tired. Then it's a good thing you don't have to anymore. I turned and walked back toward my office, my footsteps echoing on the marble floor. Behind me, I heard her uncle murmuring something in a low voice, then the sound of the elevator doors opening. I didn't look back. My hands were shaking when I sat down at my desk. I stared at my computer screen for a full minute before I could focus enough to start working again. Patricia called a few minutes later. You okay? Yeah, thanks for the heads up. For what it's worth, she was completely out of line. Both of them. I know. Good. Let me know if they come back. I'll call security. They didn't come back around. Update 1. The week that followed was strange. Quiet. I half expected more confrontations, more angry calls, but there was nothing. Amber's social media went dark. No posts, no stories. I didn't check obsessively, just once out of morbid curiosity on Wednesday night when I couldn't sleep. A mutual friend, Lauren, reached out that same day via text. Hey, heard what happened. You doing okay? Yeah, I'm fine. For what it's worth, I thought what she said was messed up. A few of us did. We just didn't know what to say in the moment. Everything happened so fast. It's fine, Lauren. Really, it's not, though. I wanted you to know that. Also, she's been weird about you for a while. Like, she wanted to date you, but also wanted everyone to know she could do better. It was uncomfortable to watch. Honestly, some of us talked about it. That stung more than I expected. Not because it was shocking, but because it confirmed what I'd been trying to ignore for months. The feeling that I was always auditioning, always trying to prove I was worth keeping around. Thanks for telling me. I said, yeah, take care of yourself. And if you need to talk, I'm around. Appreciate it. By Friday, I'd settled into a new rhythm. Work, gym, home. I started sketching again in the evenings, something I hadn't done since college. Mostly buildings, but sometimes just abstract shapes, lines that didn't need to mean anything or fit into anyone's expectations. My appetite came back. I slept through the night for the first time in weeks. I realized I'd been holding tension in my shoulders for months, and it was finally releasing. On Sunday, 2 weeks after the birthday dinner, I was at a coffee shop near my apartment when I saw her brother Tyler. He was in line ahead of me, and when he turned with his drink, we made direct eye contact. He froze for a second, then walked over. Jordan, Tyler. He hesitated, shifting his weight. Can we talk for a second? I nodded toward a table in the corner. We sat. He looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his cup sleeve. Look, he started. I'm not here to defend her. What she said was screwed up. I told her that night after you left. We got into a huge fight about it in the parking lot. Okay, but she's a mess right now. She keeps saying she didn't mean it the way it came out, that she was nervous and trying to be funny, that you took it the wrong way. She accomplished one of those things. Tyler winced. Yeah, I know. He paused, stirring his coffee even though he hadn't added anything to it. She's always been like this, you know, since we were kids. She gets insecure, and instead of dealing with it, she tears other people down to feel better about herself. My parents let her get away with it because she's the baby of the family. But that doesn't make it right. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserved better, and because I think she knows that now. Not that it changes anything. It doesn't. He nodded slowly, staring into his cup. For what it's worth, my uncle felt like an idiot after he understood what actually happened. He thought you'd just gotten into a fight over something small. Maybe you'd had too much to drink. When Amber finally told him exactly what she said, word for word, he lit into her. I've never seen him that angry. He doesn't get angry. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. Tyler stood picking up his coffee. Anyway, I won't bother you again. Just wanted you to know that not everyone thought you were in the wrong. Most people, actually, once they knew the full story. Thanks, Tyler. He left, and I sat there with my coffee watching people pass by the window. Couples, families, people walking dogs, life continuing like nothing had happened. I didn't feel vindicated or victorious, just tired and maybe a little relieved that I wasn't crazy, that what happened had actually been as bad as it felt. Update 2. A month later, early December, I ran into Lauren again at a work function, a holiday mixer for local businesses. She pulled me aside during the cocktail hour, glancing around like she was about to share classified information. Did you hear? Hear what? Amber's moving. Her company's transferring her to Boston. She's leaving in 2 weeks. I processed that, taking a sip of my drink. Good for her. She's been telling people it's a promotion, a big opportunity, but I heard from someone in her office that she actually requested the transfer. Apparently, things got awkward after the birthday thing. People started looking at her differently once word got around about what really happened. Lauren, I appreciate you keeping me in the loop, but I don't need to know this. I know. I just thought you'd want closure or whatever. I have closure. I closed it when I walked out of that restaurant. She smiled. A genuine one this time. Fair enough. You seem good though. Better than you did when you were with her. Honestly, I am. And I was. I'd started seeing someone new casually. Nothing serious yet. Her name was Tessa. She taught high school art and she laughed at my jokes without making me feel like I needed to perform. I'd finished the Mixeduce proposal and won the contract, beating out 2 other firms. I'd reconnected with an old college friend and started playing basketball on Tuesday nights at a gym downtown. Life was full in a way it hadn't been in months, maybe longer. I never heard from Amber again. No apology, no final message, no attempt to explain or justify, and that was fine. Better than fine. Actually, some people don't know how to own their mistakes, and you can't make them learn. You can only decide whether you're willing to keep paying the price for their inability to grow. The last time I thought about that night, really thought about it, let myself sit with the memory instead of pushing it away, was when I was designing a client's home office in mid-December. She wanted something bold, something that made a statement but was still functional. As I sketched, I realized I was drawing something I would have been afraid to propose 8 months earlier. Too unconventional, too confident, too likely to be rejected. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I'd spent 8 months making myself smaller to fit into someone else's idea of acceptable, dimming my personality, second-guessing my instincts, apologizing for taking up space. And when she finally said the quiet part out loud, when she turned her contempt into a public performance, it gave me permission to stop. People ask sometimes when the story comes up if I regret how I handled it, if I wish I'd stayed, confronted her in front of everyone, made her apologize, and admit what she'd done. No. Walking out was the kindest thing I could have done for both of us. It said everything that needed to be said without cruelty, without drama, without giving her more ammunition. Just a clean line in the sand. You're temporary. She was right about that, just not in the way she meant.